For this last section, what we're going to talk about is probably one of the most important shapes in all of mathematics, and that is the circle. So we're focusing on this circle in this one. It's not only one of the most useful shapes in mathematics, it's also one of the most interesting shapes. One thing that's really interesting, there are an infinite number of sides in a circle. But something that you guys will start to notice next year in calculus, or the year after if you take stats next year, the area and the circumference are actually connected to each other. And it's connecting the two major points of calculus. But let's talk about what the definition of a circle is, because a lot of people just think it's round. But when we define a circle, it's the set of all points. Tell it to be a pen. The set of all points whose distance from a single point, we're going to call that point the center, is equal. So when we say circle, what we're saying is there's a point right here. We want to know all the points that are the same distance away from that. So we want this distance away in all of those points. No matter where we go in that circle, we need to be the same distance away. So that's what we mean when we define a circle that way. And then when we connect those dots that are all in the same distance from the center, we should get something that looks similar to a circle. And we're going to pretend that I can actually draw, because I can't. So let's talk about where the equation comes from. So with that, what we're looking for is all the points x, y. So let's just say that those points are x, y. And they have to be the same distance, so they have to be equidistant from the center. And for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to call that center, and this is just I'm giving these letters just because these letters are our formal letters, HK. So if we're trying to find all the points equidistant, then I'm going to need the distance formula. So remember, our distance formula is x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared, all under the square root. And in this case, our x2 and x1, I'm going to take the points here. That x, I'm going to call that x2. That y, I'm going to call that y2. Which means I only have room for these here and here. So when I end up plugging those in, what I'm going to end up getting is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared, all under a square root. Now, that equidistant, we need to name that something. I want to call that the radius, because that's how far it is from the center to the edge. So when we're talking about that equation of a circle, we have a couple ways of writing it. One is our r equals plus or minus the square root of x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. And remember, when we take a square root, we have to remember our plus minus. Otherwise, it would only be a semicircle. So that's one way to write it, but the standard form, the way we normally prefer to write it, is a little bit different. It's going to be r squared equals x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. And we're going to say our radius equals r, and our center is at HK. So that's going to help us find our equation and help us explain things. So this right here is the one you're going to probably see the most. Is called standard form. I don't know if the top one has a name. It's just solve for R. So that's all we're doing in this video. Remember, if you have any questions, we will have office hours on Wednesday between 1 and 2:30. Make sure you reserve a spot. I had a couple people that had they reserved a spot, they might not have missed each other and we could have actually met today. So make sure you try and reserve a spot on the sign up page, and I'll see you guys on Thursday.